Lindsay, this is Michelle, your CDA instructor. How are you doing today? I have some comments on your positive guidance, logical consequences assignment, and it would be easier for me to explain them to you this way, I think, than write them all out. So after you listen to this, if it still doesn't make sense, let me know, and I will try to write them out to make it make more sense for you. But I think this might be simpler. We'll give it a try. This is a very complicated, tough thing to teach. I've taught this class in person. Usually takes all semester to really dive into this, and then a lot of years of experience of working with it to really get it to where we want it to be. So just let yourself know that it takes time to understand these things and you're just getting started. So it's perfectly understandable that it's confusing, and pretty much everyone who does this module ends up having a lot of confusion about it. So most of that is because we ourselves were not raised in the ways that we're asking that you teach, and so this can be a really hard territory to go into. But you can do it, and lots of folks have done it, and I have faith in you that you will. You got a really good start here. You have a lot of really good thoughts in here that I am glad to see. So let's dive in. If you want, you can pause the recording and get your copy of what I've got here. I've sent it to you with the recording. Excuse me, so that you can read along with it while I'm talking about it if that's helpful to you. And of course, you can listen to the recording as often as you would like. So an example of a punitive consequence, and this is punishment basically, which it sounds like you do understand that this is not something we are wanting to do, but knowing what are examples of it are really important. So you have a child not wanting to finish their lunch and having a toy taken away for that. And you're correct. That is a punitive response and not appropriate. So good. Scenario number 2, child throws a toy, leaves a bruise. Your response is, this is a logical response. Throwing is not safe. You can seriously injure your friends. We should put this toy up and we can try again after we eat lunch. So my comment here is that saying that throwing is not safe is not accurate. There are lots of things you can throw that are perfectly safe to throw. So what I want you to do is change your language there a little bit, because throwing is a part of children's schema of play, it's called, in early childhood. Throwing is one of many things that kids do while they play, which is natural to them, and they need to do it in order to develop their motor skills. Throwing a toy, if it's a toy that's not soft, would hurt someone. So I think what I want you to do is change that language so that the child understands that this toy cannot be thrown, because if it hits a person, it will hurt. Where are the toys that can be thrown? And so the logical consequence, though, of this is a little tricky, because it's more of a natural consequence that if you throw something hard and it hits someone, it may hurt them. So you might want to rethink this and make it a natural consequence situation. Maybe have the child help the person that was injured, not making them feel bad or ashamed, but being part of the solution. Anyway, I'm going to let you think about that a little bit. Certainly, if you put every toy up that could potentially hurt someone if it got thrown, that might mean most of your classroom. So I would encourage you to rethink this one a little bit. Logical consequences should make sense and be doable, most importantly. And I think putting a single toy up because the child threw it and it hurt someone, You could do that, but I'm not sure it's really what you want to go for. So if you can work with that one a little bit, that would be great. Number three, the child has a brand new toy and throws it. Again, we have throwing going on. Throwing is, again, a really normal thing for kids to do. So I would say, I would caution this one about this. Kids throw things. If we give them things that will break if they throw them and they hit the ground, then that's more of a consequence for us as the adults. I just really want you to rethink that one a little bit because, again, throwing is something kids do. They really don't have the judgment skills yet to say, if I throw this, it might break. Maybe when they're quite a bit older, they do, but when they're really young, they just don't have that. And this feels a little bit punitive to me that you threw the toy and now you don't have it because it broke. That feels more punishment to me than a natural consequence. So I just want you to think about that one a little bit. This is why I said these are very tricky. So number 4, Anthony's mad that a friend wants to play alone, so Anthony pushes the friend down. So a question I had about this is, how do you know this is true, that the friend wants to play alone and Anthony's mad about it? Has Anthony said that? And so on. If so, then I would talk through what you can do when you're mad that your friend wants to be left alone. Required apologies are not logical consequences, and I do not recommend those. Apologies from young children are very misunderstood. Young children really don't feel apologies the way we might as adults, and requiring them to apologize is not advised. What is advised is to say that if the friend got hurt, how can we help the friend feel better? And something I do instead of apologies is I will say, are you sad that your friend got hurt when you pushed him down? But even that is really not recommended. I only do it when I'm pretty sure the child does feel sad, because most of the time the child is still stuck on mad, not sad. So just rethink that one a little bit. Natural consequences. Todd throws his cup of milk on the floor and it busts everywhere. I guess you mean that it spills? I'm not sure if the cup broke there, if you're talking about something broken again, because you mentioned a broken toy up here. And the response is Todd doesn't have a drink anymore. So just so we're careful here, I just want to be really careful. You cannot withhold a drink or food from a child in a child care setting. That's a licensing violation, and it's a very serious one. So I just want to make sure that we understand this is not a natural consequence and it's not appropriate. And again, children throw things. That happens. If the child is throwing because they're mad or they're having a hard time. Oops, I lost your thing there. Where did it go? Oh no. Okay, well, I can keep going without it. That's okay. So, oh, here it is. Hallelujah. Sorry about that. So you see how instructors have the same problems you guys do with Blackboard sometimes. Okay, so this you really need to redo completely. It's not appropriate for a child to lose a drink because they threw the cup of milk on the floor. So let's rethink that one a little bit. I know these are real scenarios, by the way. I've taught for a long, long, long time. However, I want you to rethink how you're viewing them in terms of consequences. Punitive, refuses to clean up toys. So I just don't understand this one a little bit. Yes, this is definitely punishment and definitely not appropriate. But I am really concerned that this is in here. I'm just not sure I'm not sure what you're going for here, but to spank or put someone in timeout is a punishment and not appropriate. And you are saying that the parent is doing it, so it's a little confusing to me. Um, just be careful there with that kind of language. It really doesn't have any place in our profession in childcare, so I would suggest you rethink that one a little bit. You're right about it, but just be careful with that language in a childcare setting, even when you're talking about the parent. Logical scenario: Whitney takes necklace to school. This is actually very good. That's fantastic. It's a really good example of a great logical solution finding activity. This is also accurate that your feet would get cold and wet if you leave your shoes off your feet when you go outside and it's wet and cold. However, we are in a childcare setting, and allowing a child's feet to get wet and cold is not advisable in a childcare setting or in a preschool setting. So you're correct. It's a natural consequence, though. I just want to make sure you know we would never do that. We would never let that happen in our settings. Number 9, this is accurate. Punishment has nothing to do with the issue. That's really good. And telling kids to get along with their friends, I don't know. Or sit down and eat, because you can never take away recess. Let's put it that way. You can't take away children's time outside, so just be careful with that one. And it sounds like you get that. Here you have these kids being told to get along, or they can't sit at the table, and the response is that they end up sitting separate from each other. So rather than telling them to get along, kids really don't know what that means. They know adults say it to them a lot, but they don't have a lot of practice socially in how to do that. It would be much better if we just helped them and modeled for them and gave them some maybe puppet play, to show them how they can. I think what you would want to do is be very specific about what behavior they're engaged in that's causing you to not want them to sit at the table. You do say they're fighting, so I don't know if that means they're being physical with each other. And of course, that would be a good reason for someone to sit between them and help them out a little bit. But anyway, I would not separate them and put them in separate areas. That's actually more of a punishment than a logical consequence. A logical consequence would mean you might come and sit between them, or, that you'll have to move them. But I would not sit them in separate areas, like to isolate them. Maybe you didn't mean that. So if not, that's fine. You can just explain that a little bit more. No problem. I wasn't quite sure about that, so that's why I put a question mark. Okay, I hope this helps. Let me know if I can explain further.